Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Well, good evening, friends, and welcome to this February 2015 edition of Nightcast. A winter storm on America's northeast coast has brought near whiteout conditions and lightning strikes in coastal areas. Blizzards have forced the cancellation of more than 1,750 passenger flights, most of them into and out of the airports in Boston and New York. For residents of Boston, the latest storm has made February the snowiest in the city of Boston's history. David Campanelli has our opening story report of cold weather in America that's reached the Southlands, too. It's cold down here as well. David, tell us what's happening with those blizzards and what have you up in the Northeast, please.
Biting cold and driving snow has once again hit America's Northeast. It's the fourth such onslaught that residents have experienced in less than a month. 6 coastal states have been buried under record-setting snow, with 50 million people affected. But it's New England that's been worst hit.
I've never experienced anything like it in my life, but it's definitely something to grow off of.
The storm is terrible. It's not so much the storm. If there was a light at the end of the road and I looked at the National Weather Report and saw one day that was above freezing, I'd be very happy.
These are cars down here under the snow.
Boston has seen 1.8 meters of snow since late January and has already set a record for the amount of snow in a single week. Across the state of Massachusetts, over 500 members of the National Guard have been mobilized to cope with the blizzard, and people have been urged to stay at home.
The cold weather that's coming with this snow and the drifting and the blowing makes the issue associated with driving even more difficult. Somebody who gets trapped out there, it's just going to be a very bad day to be on the roads, and we would urge everybody to do everything they can to stay off.
The National Weather Service says temperatures are 25 to 30 degrees below normal, and the brutal cold is predicted to last through Monday. David Campanelli, BBC News.
All right, David, thank you very much. And friends, I am aware that we're having a problem with our audio on the left channel. So those of you watching with stereo equipment from our archive recordings, you're only getting the right channel on our movie playouts tonight. But those of you watching on the live stream, we're temporarily running the signal monaural, so you won't even notice anything. You'll still get a left and right mix. All right, we're putting in some new equipment. We wired up some of it today, and apparently we missed a connection somewhere for the left channel on the video playout stuff. But anyway, I think we can survive that small problem tonight because eventually it'll help even out the audio levels without my having to do so much fidgeting with that during the live telecast. I can pay more attention to other things as I need to do. There's a lot of big stories tonight. Friends, I kind of wanted to take a break tonight, but there's so much going on today that it'll pile up on us by tomorrow if we don't cover the news tonight. And I have set myself a goal of being like the kind of like the United States Postal Service, which used to have a motto that says, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, we deliver that mail. But we've got the stories on the 21 beheadings that the Islamic State has done. We'll get there. Before that, there's the shootings in Denmark. I want to cover those first. The Prime Minister of Denmark says it's a terrorist attack, as she put it, a shooting at a free speech debate in the Danish capital, Copenhagen, is being treated as, quote, a terrorist attack, the Danish Prime Minister says. She said that the attack was politically motivated and that the country was on a high state of alert. Now, this is her speaking as of last night, and as of this video, I want you to see her making this introduction of it and get a feel for the Prime Minister of Copenhagen, and then we'll update you, because we have more information than when she spoke last night. But let's hear the Prime Minister of Copenhagen, of Denmark, first.
Denmark has been hit by a very serious act of violence tonight. We feel certain now that it is a politically motivated attack, and thereby it is a terrorist attack. We take this situation extremely seriously. We are in a high alarm all over the country, and our main priority at this stage is to catch the perpetrators and make sure that we find them as soon as possible.
Okay, friends, and I'm sorry for the delay again. I hate to keep doing that, but I'm getting up checking the wiring and the cables to see if I can figure out what preventing the left channel from coming through on those videos. All right, I didn't find it, but Copenhagen's hit by second deadly shooting, a shooting near a synagogue in Copenhagen has left one person dead and 2 injured hours after the deadly attack you just heard the Prime Minister speaking about that happened at a cafe in the city. In the second shooting, one person died after being shot in the head, and 2 police officers were wounded. The attacker is believed to have fled. Earlier, a gunman killed 1 person and injured 3 at a free speech debate attended at a Swedish by a Swedish cartoonist. It's not clear if the 2 shootings are connected. Malcolm Brabant reports from Copenhagen now.
Copenhagen very much is a city on the edge at the moment. The police have warned people in the old part of town that they have to get out of town and get home, get off the streets, because it's simply not safe. At the moment, you've got possibly 2 gunmen, or possibly 1, roaming around the streets at the moment. The police say that they can't actually link these 2 events, as you've quite rightly said. But the point that has to be made here is that there is a striking similarity in the sequence of events that has happened in Copenhagen to that which happened in Paris. And so perhaps this is an attempt to mirror what happened in Paris in a way. You will recall that what happened in Paris was that, first of all, there was an assault on the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, and then later an accomplice of the pair that were involved in the Charlie Hebdo attack then went and attacked the Jewish supermarket. So there has been an attack outside a Jewish target here in Copenhagen, and also one involving the whole the question of freedom of expression. So there are real similarities between the 2 cases. But at the moment, you've got the police and the army out looking for the gunman. I mean, the city is abuzz with sirens and also with helicopters flying around, trying to find the people who are responsible for these attacks. And the fear is that there may be more.
Okay, friends, and we have some more details on this in another video, maybe a little more detail in this one. Let's see.
Well, they do appear to be fairly confident the person they killed this morning was the gunman who they believe was responsible for both attacks. They managed to track him down using CCTV footage and also information from a taxi driver who dropped him at this address in Nørrebro, which is a predominantly immigrant district of Copenhagen, and they lay in wait for him there, and he turned up at about 5 o'clock this morning local time. They shouted out to him, he opened fire, they returned fire, and they killed him. Although they do believe that this was perhaps the work of a lone wolf, they are certainly not being complacent, and they're not letting down their guard whatsoever. And so Copenhagen remains a city that is very much it's a very tense place at the moment. You know, the concern is, of course, that maybe they didn't actually get the right bloke, and that there are others out there, or that perhaps he has associates who are intent upon carrying out further attacks, because they just do not know what to expect. And so they're being vigilant. But once again, as you know, what we saw yesterday was that you cannot defend a city or a place against a determined individual, especially one who is supposedly what they call a clean skin, somebody who doesn't have a particular record.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. And we have some, friends, I found the problem on that left channel. Well, the cable's totally unplugged. I gotta find that cable, and I'll try to get that plugged in during the next video. And during this next video, it's an update, very much an update. This update from just 1 hour before we went on the air tonight. Danish police say the gunman believed to have carried out 2 deadly... Let's see, now, wait a minute. Almost went too far. All right, I think I got the right video loaded back up. Police say that the gunman believed to have carried out 2 deadly attacks in Copenhagen was 22-year-old man born in Denmark. Authorities said he was also known to them because of past violence. So we do now know who it is. Police say they killed the man in Nørrebro, in the Nørrebro district, after he opened fire on them. He started shooting at the police. It came after 1 person was killed and 3 police officers injured in a free speech debate in a cafe yesterday. In the second attack, a Jewish man was killed and 2 police officers wounded near the city's main synagogue. Lucy Williamson has this very current update.
In the quiet shuffle of forensics teams around the body of its most wanted man. Wanted for crimes that had left 2 people dead, several police officers wounded, and the security of an entire country shaken. This is the man police believe terrorized the nation, a 22-year-old gang member with a violent criminal past, born here in Denmark, and named as Omar Abdelhamid El-Hussein, shot dead on Sunday on a Copenhagen street.
I heard shootings and a lot of shouting from people on the street. I looked out and there was a lot of policemen and a man laying on the ground.
The gunman struck twice before he died. On Saturday, he shot and killed a man attending a meeting on freedom of speech. Hours later, he fired at a synagogue, killing another. Early on Sunday, the suspect was met by police near his apartment and died in an exchange of fire. But this one-man rampage could have been so much worse. Inside the synagogue, dozens of children had been taking part in a ceremony to mark the Jewish end of childhood. All that separated them from the gunman was a door, 2 police officers and a security guard who died in the attack. His name was Dan Uzan. He was 37 years old. Hours earlier, the gunman had claimed his first victim, 55-year-old film director Finn Nørgaard. Amid the chaos outside the cafe, he lay dying as people ran to his aid. Today, the cafe window shows the brutality of that attack. Peter Back was inside when the shooting started.
There was these gunshots. Then there was somebody who shouted, Doc, go to the floor, and were searching the back entrance. Actually, I saw the guy with the gun. I was afraid he saw me, so I ducked behind the car.
Police say the man they shot here last night was already known to security services, and that these shootings seem to have been inspired by the attacks in Paris last month. There's no reason to believe this gunman was working with anyone else, they say, but the threat from attacks like these is being felt across Europe. Today, the Prime Minister began the process of mourning these attacks and of answering them.
To the whole of the Jewish community today, they belong in Denmark. They are a strong part of our community, and we will do everything we can to protect the Jewish community in our country.
One by one, Denmark's citizens followed her in the familiar gestures of grief, as another European pavement becomes a place for memorials, another tribute to Europe's faith in the freedom of speech. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Copenhagen.
Okay, friends, and some of you may have noticed that during that video clip, you got your left channel back. I found the cable that had been plugged in the wrong place, and we straightened that out. Now, Friends, a video has emerged. Oh, you know, I have for you, if I can cycle through it and not cause our media player to hang up. Well, I had, maybe we misloaded that. Oh, we have to reload this to make that come in here. I tell you what, I think this is worth it. I want you to see where Copenhagen is, and while I cycle that up, let's put on the screen a slide that shows how Copenhagen, part of Denmark, is the modern-day descendants there are one of the tribes, one of the 12 tribes of Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. You'll see him there. He's the second son of, well, I'm sorry, he's the first son, Dan. Dan, who is modern-day Denmark, was the first son of Rachel's handmaid, Bilhah. And you can see the other, if you can read this slide okay. I know I need to revise this slide. But this shows all of the 12 tribes of Israel and where they are today as part of modern-day, the modern-day tribes of Israel. And while I let you take a look at that for a second, friends, I'm recycling our video for today. And if this works, we should have coming up with it. Oh, there it is. Okay, it is there. All right, I have a slide that will show you, if I didn't totally mess this thing up, I have a slide that will show you a map of Copenhagen. Let's see. Oh boy, we got it loaded all my videos in twice. All right, but here we go. I've got a slide of a map that shows you Copenhagen, the south Sweden, and Copenhagen, part of Denmark, the white mapped area on your screen there, and it's just north of Germany. You see Normandy to the south of Denmark. And so Copenhagen there on the east side of Denmark, north of Germany, a little bit southwest of Sweden. So that'll give you a little bit idea where that is. Now, a video has emerged showing the beheading of purportedly 21 Egyptian Christians who've been kidnapped by Islamic State militants in Libya. And friends, what I got to do is go back, cycle back to the place in our video where, here it is, right there. Okay, where this story comes up. The footage shows a group wearing orange overalls being forced to the ground and then decapitated. Speaking on national television, the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi reserved the right to respond in any way Egypt saw fit, and he condemned the inhuman criminal killers.
Egypt reserves the right to respond at the proper time and in the appropriate style in retaliation for those inhuman criminal killers, and I have called for the National Defense Council to convene to follow up on the development of this issue. I have ordered the government to continue to enforce a travel ban on Egyptian citizens travelling to Libya due to the turmoil in Libya.
Okay, that was just a short little clip there. Friends, I've got this a little bit out of order in a way. I meant to put this after the Copenhagen story because of the Jewish man being killed there. And let me see if I can find, there it is, find Mr. Netanyahu's picture. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has responded to this weekend's deadliest, or not deadliest, but deadly synagogue shooting in Copenhagen by urging European Jews to immigrate to Israel. Netanyahu, his invitation comes despite reassurance from his Danish counterpart, the Prime Minister of Denmark, saying that Jews belong there in Denmark and that everything would be done to protect them. Warning that more anti-Semitic attacks like those in France and now Denmark are likely, the Israeli Prime Minister spoke out at the start of his weekly cabinet meeting. Jews have been murdered again on European soil only because, quote, they were Jews, said Mr. Netanyahu. This wave of attacks is expected to continue, including murderous anti-Semitic attacks. Of course, Jews deserve protection in every country, but we say to Jews, to our brothers and sisters, Israel is your home. We are preparing and calling for the absorption of mass immigration from Europe. The cabinet later submitted to a plan to encourage the absorption of Jews from France, Belgium, and Ukraine, with immigration from other European countries to be discussed at a later date. Under Israel's law of return, anyone with at least one Jewish grandparent has a right of immigration to Israel and once there can receive Israeli citizenship automatically. And the proposal they put forth, friends, we'll have more detail and news on this tomorrow, is for $46 million to be provided for this immigration of European Jews to Israel. And now let me see. Let me review that, because I have at least one grandparent, on my mother's side who is Jewish. And let's see, Jews from France, Belgium, and Ukraine. And with immigration from other European countries to be discussed at a later date. Well, come on, add America in there. I might be ready to to immigrate there myself. Set up me a little studio somewhere around there. Maybe not too close to Jerusalem, because we know at some point, friends, the prophecies say that when Jerusalem is surrounded with armies, that's your cue to skidoo. You know, that's the time to flee. And of course, the flight would be you wouldn't need to fly if you're in Jerusalem. You just head out by foot over the hills and over the waterway between the Lake Tiberias in the north and the Dead Sea in the south, and you're over in the land between Edom, Ammon, Jordan, and Ammon, and the Moabite country, which is the only area on the face of the earth that is going to be protected, as Daniel told us, as God told us through Daniel in Daniel 11, verse 40, 41, 42, during the time of the Great Tribulation, a time when, let's come out just a little bit here, and let's go into a close shot on the screen behind me, and let's zoom down to that crown of the Holy Roman Empire. Whoops, let's see, I meant to go one over to the crown of the Holy Roman Empire, which will be worn again once the 10 toes of Daniel, that are the same as the 10 horns on the beast from the land. Pull out. You know, we haven't talked about this in a while. Let's pull out a little bit wider, and we're going to zoom over to the far side of our studio over here on this beast that comes up from the land. And on that beast, the seventh head has 10 horns. Now, these 10 horns, they're not the same 10 horns that are on this beast on the other side of the studio over here. These 7 horns on this 7th head are the same as the 7 heads that the last 7 horns of the 10 horns on this 7th head. These last 7 remaining horns are the same as the 7 heads on this beast over here on this wall, which is the second beast of Revelation 13, the other beast that starts in verse 11 of Revelation 13. Revelation 13 starts out in the first verse with a beast that comes up from the ocean. Let's come back out again. You see on that side of the wall, let's see, over here on this side of the wall, this is the beast that's got, you see the ocean underneath him. Let's go close, tight it. Let's go zoom in on him again. See the ocean under the leopard's feet there? He's got the leopard's body, but he's got the paws of a bear, because God has made a composite of the four beasts that Daniel saw and that King Nebuchadnezzar saw and that Daniel interpreted for King Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel 7. Now, you know, in Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream of a great image, but then later, in Daniel 7, King Nebuchadnezzar had a dream about 4 beasts that come up from the ocean. And those 4 beasts had a body like a leopard, a head like a lion, the paws like a bear, and mouth speaking like a lion. But then it had this head that was terrible and great, and teeth like iron, and 10 horns on it. The first 3 horns represent those 3 barbaric rulers and kingdoms that the Pope had plucked up by their roots. The remaining 7 horns on this 7th head of the beast that comes up from the ocean, which is a beast that's got like 4 bodies, the same 4 bodies as the 4 beasts from Daniel 7, but now we're on a composite beast that comes up from the ocean that's pictured in Revelation 13. You know, see, God puts it all together. It's all same thing, but in one place it's 4 separate beasts coming out of the ocean in Daniel 7, but over in Revelation 13, he lumps them all together into one body, one beast coming out of the ocean with 7 heads, 4 bodies, but one of those bodies, the leopard body, has 4 leopard heads on it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heads on these 4 beasts, and 10 horns on the 7th head. And as I mentioned, the first 3 horns are plucked up by the roots. The 7 remaining horns on this 7th head are the same as these 7 heads on the beast that comes up out of the ocean, the land beast, the beast that comes up from the land. In Revelation 13, the first beast is this beast I was just mentioning that comes up from the ocean. Then, when we get to verse 11 of Revelation 17, there's another beast pictured, the one from the land over here. And those 7 heads on this beast from the land are the same as the 7 last horns on the beast that's in the first part of Revelation 13, which 7th head has 10 horns, 3 plucked up, the first 3 plucked up by their roots, the 7 remaining horns on this beast from the ocean, those 7 horns being the same as the 7 heads on this beast from the land. All right, now that I straighten out having flubbed up my words for a moment ago, this beast from the land has 7 heads, these 7 heads being the same as the last 7 horns on the beast from the ocean in the first part of Revelation 13. We're now in verse 11 of Revelation 13. The 7th head on this beast has 10 horns. But of course, these 10 horns are not the same as the 10 horns on the beast from the ocean, because the first 3 are the first 3 barbaric kingdoms, one after another, that the Pope had plucked up by their roots, and the 7 remaining heads were one kingdom after another in succession, not in continuity, not reigning at the same time, but one after another. And if we come out and if we go over to the screen on the wall just behind me here, and we zoom in on the top 6 photographs, the first 6 of the 7 remaining horns represent the kingdoms in succession, one after another, that the first one of which is Justinian. And then after he's through reigning and ruling, there was a second. The second head was Charlemagne. And then he reigned for so long, and then the baton, or the next world-ruling kingdom of these 7 horns, 7 heads, went over to Otto the Great. And then following him, let's see, am I saying that right? We'll see, we got Charlemagne, we got Justinian. Okay, it's Justinian, Charlemagne. Yeah, Otto the Great. And then next is Charles V, who was the 4th king of these 7 kings. Now, Revelation 17 says there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen. Here are the first 4 of those 5. And then was one that, very famous, many of you know, Napoleon. And he, at the Battle of Waterloo, ended a continuous succession of kings from 554 AD to 1814 AD. And then the Holy Roman Empire goes into the abyss for a while until 1936, when Mussolini proclaimed that he had restored the Holy Roman Empire when he conquered Ethiopia. And he remained the 6th head of the Holy Roman Empire until his defeat, or his being killed in 1945 and hung upside down from the canopy of a Esso gasoline station. He and his mistress and his comrades. There they are, hanging upside down from the canopy of an Esso gasoline station in Italy on April 28, 1945, and that put the Holy Roman Empire back into the abyss. It went into the abyss at the Battle of Waterloo in April of 1814, came back out of the abyss, out of the pit, in 1936 when Mussolini revived it. Then when Mussolini was strung upside down on April 28, 1945, Holy Roman Empire goes back into the abyss. So it had a very short 9.5-year revival between 1936 and 1945. Now it's in the abyss, and here we are in 2015, and we don't know who the next 7th and final king is going to be, but we do know that when that happens, it'll be the time of the Great Tribulation. It'll be a coronation. And the woman who pictures who rides the 7th head of this beast, who pictures a great worldwide, a universal false church, who has in the past held the coronation ceremonies during which he crowned the emperors of the Holy Roman Empire. And, he was there for the coronation ceremony of Napoleon. But where the Pope was going to put the crown on Napoleon's head, Napoleon was impatient, grabbed that crown out of the Pope's hands and placed it upon his own head. But the Pope was there, and it was considered that the Pope crowned him, that the Pope held the coronation ceremony during which Napoleon was crowned. And now with Mussolini, he had a concordant from the Vatican which sanctioned his being the 6th head of the Holy Roman Empire. But that woman that gives either the concordance or holds the coronation ceremony will give her concordant, or give her concordance, her approval of the appointing of the 7th and final head once these 10 current-day kings who are contemporary with one another, who we don't know who they are exactly yet, but we know they're 5 from the east part of Europe and 5 from the west part of Europe. They're pictured by those 10 toes that are part clay and part iron. They won't get along with one another, even within their own divisions, and especially between the east and the west, but for 1 hour, for a short type period of time. The Bible calls it 1 hour just to be symbolic of a short period of time. They will agree together on one who will be the overall new dictator and what the Bible calls the beast. And the beast in conjunction with that woman back there who symbolizes the leader of a great universal church, the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, the false prophet. Now, whether it be this current Pope or another one yet, we don't know. We just have to watch this and see. But that Pope will, just as that woman that pictures the false prophet is sitting in the saddle of that seventh head, of that beast, behind the head there, in the saddle with the reins, she will be controlling that powerful beast. And together, that false prophet and that beast will do what God says is part of the time of the Great Tribulation, the 5th seal of the 7 seals of Revelation. It'll be the time of World War III, the time of martyrdom of God's saints, the biggest ever. It'll be the time when God flies His Philadelphia-era church to a place in the wilderness that He's prepared for the church's protection during this time, a time that's Daniel 11, verse 40-41, described as being in a triangular area between Ammon, Jordan, and the land of the children of Moab and the land of the Edomites, which that's the only area on the face of the earth that will be protected during this time of great tribulation. It'll be the time of 2 witnesses also. We don't know who they are yet, but when they come on the scene, God will reveal it through great miracles those 2 men perform. Even their very presence and life may be a awe-inspiring miracle. One of them or both may be men who have died and are resurrected. And that's a proposition that's been put forth by some that we don't know that that's the case, but that could be. That's the way it could happen. And then, friends, at the end of all that, that great image pictured by Daniel, when Christ returns, those governments of the earth will fight Christ, but He wins out, and like a great rock, He smashes the feet of that great image, as was pictured in Daniel, showing that God, when He returns, He topples the entire structure of this world's governments and replaces it with the government of God, the kingdom of God that He will usher in and restore. And what a wonderful time that will be, a time that has been long prophesied in these last days by a man God raised up by the name of Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong, from whom I learned the truths that I share with you in this program as we review the day's current news each day. And we follow the instruction that Mr. Armstrong encouraged us to follow, that Christ gave us in Luke 21, verse 36, where Christ said, "Watch and pray always." And He held out a carrot, a promise that if you do that, you may be accounted worthy to escape the events of the Great Tribulation. And that's definitely something, a goal very much worth escaping. Okay, now let's go back to where I was. I was talking about Prime Minister Netanyahu encouraging the immigration to Israel of Jews from Europe. And he said once there, they can receive Israeli citizenship automatically, and they're working on broadening that to more areas of Europe where Jewish people with at least one grandparent who's a Jew can immigrate to Israel. One more story for tonight, friends, with what's going on over in the Ukraine. Oh, there's one more picture I had that's an old picture of Prime Minister Netanyahu when he was a captain in the Israeli army. But with Ukraine, the truce is said in today's news to be holding, although some fighting continues. In Ukraine, the ceasefire between government forces and Russian-backed separatists, this news lead says, is largely holding in the east of the country. However, both sides say while the fighting has subsided, it has not stopped completely, and shelling can be heard around the besieged town of Debaltseve. As Ian Pennell reports from near Debaltseve, the ceasefire remains fragile.
Peacetime in Ukraine, apparently. But these families aren't heading home, they're leaving. And this is why. It's telling how no one flinches. Accustomed to war, but tired of having to live with it. The ceasefire may have largely held, but not here, near the frontline town of Debaltseve. This area is testament to the ferocity of a war about identity and sovereignty. A battle that pits a Western-leaning government against a rebel army that turns to its Russian neighbour. With more than 5,000 people killed and 1.5 million displaced, it'll be difficult for either side to forgive or forget.
Too much blood's been shed on both sides. 2 or 3 generations need to pass to even start to forget about this. Too many people have suffered and been killed on both sides.
This was a frontline town in World War II. Imagine seeing this twice in one life. 87-year-old Matrona says she hasn't got any power or bread. Her daughter just thanks God they're still alive. Rebel leaders say they'll stick to the ceasefire in most places, but not here, an area they insist isn't covered by the peace deal.
So this is day one of the ceasefire in the Ukrainian war. And while it appears to be largely holding in many frontline positions, that doesn't seem to be the case here. We're not far from Debaltseve, which is a key frontline area that's been heavily fought over by both sides. And for the entire time we've been here, we've been hearing the sound of fighting. It appears to be the sound of mortars, perhaps shells. It's difficult to know which side is firing, but it does show quite how fragile this ceasefire really is.
If progress can be made elsewhere, then perhaps Ukraine can move forward. For now, it's peace of sorts, but with deadly imperfections. Ian Pannell, BBC News, Ugliagorsk.
And friends, that's it for this Sunday night report here on Nightcast. God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be back again Monday night with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long and good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on COGTV.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the COGTV.org video archive.